A FEMA supervisor told their employees to skip houses with yard signs in support of President-elect Donald Trump following Hurricane Milton. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Riley Phillips. That information confirmed to us by FEMA in a statement. We're also learning that supervisor has been fired. In the statement, FEMA Administrator Deanne Criswell said this went against the agency's core values and, quote, "I want to be clear to all of my employees and the American people. This type of behavior and action will not be tolerated at FEMA, and we will hold people accountable if they violate these standards of conduct." The Office of Special Counsel is now investigating the matter. Meanwhile, Governor Ron DeSantis reacted to the news on social media, calling it targeted discrimination of Floridians who support Trump and the blatant weaponization of government by partisan activists. Also saying he directed the Florida Division of Emergency Management to investigate. And right now, we're on your side working to learn where in Florida houses were potentially skipped by FEMA employees. We'll update you as we learn more.
Stating that I was fired. They all alleged that these actions were made on my own recognizances and that it was for my own political advances. However, if you look at the record, there is what we call a community trend. And unfortunately, it just so happened that the political hostility that was encountered by my team, and I was on two different teams during this deployment, they just so happened to have the Trump campaign signage. FEMA always preaches avoidance first and then de-escalation. So this is not isolated. This is a colossal event of avoidance, not just in the state of Florida, but you will find avoidance in the Carolinas. Senior leadership will lie to you and tell you that they do not know. But if you ask the DSA crew leads and specialists what they are experiencing in the field, they will tell you. Demand for FEMA to give you those incident reports.
What's going on, guys? So it looks like the fake news was wrong again. Okay, it seems like they just get everything wrong, doesn't it? Because they were previously accusing Donald Trump and Republicans of trying to politicize this issue with FEMA, saying that FEMA is not going to and supporting the houses of Trump supporters and right-wingers. Okay, they claim that was some sort of conspiracy theory. Now, what's up with the left always claiming that everything is some sort of conspiracy or that is false? Like they lead with, well, Trump made false claims. They always say the same thing, but they never actually do any research first. Like it would make sense and you'd be much more trustworthy if you did research fairly and then came back with saying, okay, well, we don't see any evidence of that. So you don't even know, even if you don't find evidence of it, that in of itself also doesn't mean that it's false. It just means that you didn't find anything. I think it's fair to say if you've done research to say, I did research and I didn't find evidence of it. That could be a factual statement. But to say that somebody falsely claimed this, that, and the third, and then end up looking stupid later without issuing retractions and admitting that you're wrong on air, not somewhere hidden in some article somewhere, but on air, just like how you strongly said that it was false, you should strongly come on air and say it was not false. Turns out it was true and you were wrong, or you apologize or something, which they never do. And here's a compilation of these idiots making themselves look stupid.
Politicizing a natural disaster, what FEMA is warning about.
The only person making an accusation that people are not getting what they've asked for is Trump, falsely claiming that the administration is withholding resources because of political affiliation. That is just not true.
Hurricane Milton victims in Florida may have been denied help for being Trump supporters. A FEMA official has now been fired for telling relief workers to bypass homes with Trump vans campaign signs.
They then turn around and go, see, FEMA's not coming to help you because it's a Republican area. And then people go, see? No, not see. You've got to see for the first time in your life if you're MAGA. Donald Trump is a con man using you as his mark. Donald Trump's a ridiculous, pathetic liar.
Well, the Federal Emergency Management Agency is facing major backlash after confirming reports that a supervisor ordered disaster relief workers to avoid homes with Trump yard signs.
What would you say to people propagating misinformation about the emergency response to these storms?
Stop politicizing FEMA.
Elon Musk is hopping about the country, spewing and tweeting political falsehoods and attacking FEMA while claiming his desire to help the hurricane victims with free Starlink access to the internet.
Donald Trump is literally putting lives at risk right now. If you can't trust FEMA and trust basic weather reports, for example, which he's questioned in the past.
Elon Musk, the richest man in the world and top Trump ally, has also pushed lies about the hurricane to his millions of followers on the social media platform he owns.
Now, unfortunately, tragically, quite frankly, it is politicized.
The only person who is politicizing this is Donald Trump. He's the one guy doing it.
The Daily Wire obtained private messages showing a FEMA official instructing hurricane relief workers there to avoid homes with Trump signs. Damaged homes were reportedly ignored by FEMA because of the residents' political affiliation. FEMA is now handing over the matter to the Office of Special Counsel.
Now, the lady who was responsible for this was fired. You can see her up on the screen here. Okay, so Kamala Simp Roland Martin gave her an interview where she's basically blaming this on other people and saying that she's not the one responsible for this. Now, I can't say whether or not this is true or not because nobody really knows, but I'm just saying that part of her story I do not buy. Okay, she's claiming that there's all these reports of potential threats and violence from Trump supporters, which I personally don't believe that's the case. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's hung around these people, and they're, you know, a lot of these people's presumption is that if you're a Trump supporter, you're just some like raving white lunatic, right? Because that's clearly what these people tend to think, if you haven't noticed from, you know, just being in our society. But the reality is far different from that, and people like this, I think, are going into and spinning up narratives. Remember Jussie Smollett? Remember that that other girl, Carly Russell, who made up the story saying that she had been kidnapped by a white man and he had a bald spot on top of his head and she escaped and he found her again and she escaped again. These people have to make things up to justify their wackiness. It's a mental condition, guys, and the mainstream media is not helping these people. They are hurting them. But without further ado, let's get into this clip.
So if you turned in reports to your supervisors that state political hostility for the people in the field, those reports exist.
Yes, hence why I also sent you screenshots where they're deleting files now from my computer. So FEMA says they fired me, but I still have access to the systems and their applications. And while I was in
Well, yeah, not anymore after this
interview yesterday, I noticed that my files were being deleted in my name, and I could not have been doing that while I was talking to Matt.
And also, what type of employee are you? If you're supposed to be fired, why the hell are you still logging into their system? Like, this sounds like it could be some sort of, even if they screwed up from their security perspective, their access control should be more on point. It sounds like you could be in some sort of federal violation for accessing. It's literally considered unauthorized access. Once they tell you, hey, it's revoked, then you could be causing yourself to be in legal trouble here by continuing to access it just because they didn't revoke your access.
So FEMA is very well aware of the incidents that take place, not just with my crew, but with all of the crews in the state that's declared. And instead of just saying, hey, this is how we're going to mitigate it to protect our people, they decided to fire me and make sure Donald Trump knows that they are loyal to him because they fear retribution. The important thing is here, once we start seeing a trend, for example, if they just so happen to have these Trump campaign signs in front of their home, and that's the characteristic that's coming along with that, we have to proceed with precaution. So avoidance first and then de-escalation.
So I'm curious because she's talking about there's incident reports. So how many incident reports? And is every single incident of somebody with a Trump sign, is this happening? Or was it like 2? I mean, what does this even mean? And she doesn't have any evidence. Mysteriously, she just says it's on some FEMA server somewhere and we're supposed to just believe what she's saying with no evidence.
And that's the thing. Our superiors know that. We have constant conversations about keep your people safe. If your people are uncomfortable, then just don't go.
So which is it? Is it that there's incidents related to people with Trump signs? Or is it that they're uncomfortable with people with Trump signs because they think something's going to happen? That's the real question. And I think we really know what the answer to this is. They're uncomfortable with it. in their mind, because of these radical politicians calling people Nazis and Hitler and stuff like that, in their mind, they believe that they're not safe going to a Trump supporter's house.
So explain this to me, please. Explain this to me. Okay. So I'm just trying to understand what that means. So again, if I'm on a house, if I'm on a street and it has 20 homes, and there are 8 homes on that street with Trump signs, and my team has faced hostility from 3 of the homes that have signs. What happens next?
I inform my TFL, my direct report, hey, we're again experiencing hostile encounters. We're moving on to another street. We're not canvassing those homes.
So again, only for go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
So here's the thing: if you're talking about, God, this is so ridiculous. If you're talking about emergency response, you're talking about people that need help. It wouldn't surprise me if you had some sort of hostile encounters, not necessarily just from Trump signed people. That makes no sense. But it wouldn't surprise me if you had some sort of hostile encounters, because people have, a lot of them have lost everything. So everybody may not be sunshine and rainbows. That said, obviously, if somebody's like threatening you or something, that's different. But what does that have to do with the people who have Trump signs? That's the part that doesn't make sense. And there's no way she's going to be able to justify it, no matter how many circles and backflips and logical BS conclusions she tries to jump to. It's not going to make any sense to say that the Trump signed people specifically, you just deliberately chose to not go to those homes, but you just assumed that if they didn't have a Trump sign, then it was just as safe as can be, and everybody was going to be so harmonious and so nice and sweet. What this was is they probably figured that the Trump signed people was the white folks' houses, and if they had another sign like a Harris Wall sign, it was probably somebody black or a white dude for Harris or somebody on their side politically. They were trying to win the election. It was a very, very, very tense and insane election season. That's what it was really about. And this person sitting up here lying doesn't want to admit it.
And that's the directive too. Like, honestly, he has called me multiple times and says, your job is to keep the team safe.
I'm sorry, when you say he, who's he?
Oh, Chad Hershey.
Okay, who's Chad Hershey?
The TFL, my assigned TFL for this deployment.
So Chad Hershey has told you what?
That if your team is uncomfortable and they do not feel safe, do not go to those homes. Go and canvass the other homes. Your job is to keep these people safe. They need to be able to go back home safe.
Notice what she keeps saying. If your team feels uncomfortable, you could feel uncomfortable for any reason. Imagine if you're like a police officer and, I don't know, it's some sort of incident. Somebody has a gun and, you're just like, hey, I don't feel safe. I'm just not going to do anything. I mean, I know these people are FEMA workers. They're not police officers. But when you're talking about disaster relief, I mean, hell, even going and knocking on somebody's door, even trying to get to the door could be unsafe depending on the road conditions, like, and your ability to walk through, and I mean, down power lines, flooding, all sorts of stuff. So, of course, some of the people also could be unsafe people. Like maybe they haven't eaten. Maybe they haven't had a change of clothes. Maybe they just had their kids die. There could be all kinds of reasons why these people are pissed and why they may be a little moody. And because this lady decides, well, Trump supporters are unsafe since they're Nazis and racists and white supremacists or whatever other nonsense she has in her head that she doesn't want to repeat now because she knows she's busted and in trouble. Now she's trying to make up some sort of story saying, oh, it's about their safety and all this nonsense. Lady, what you should do is really just take the L, say that what you did was wrong, and just move on, because you were stupid enough to even put this in writing. A lot of people would do stuff like this and, you'd have to catch them in a tape recording or something. This dummy put in writing, avoid houses with Trump signs. You didn't say due to safety in there. It just said avoid houses with Trump signs. You're busted, lady. It's over. Nobody buys it. Do I think it's other partisan hacks in FEMA as well? Yeah, absolutely. It's partisan hacks in every branch and organization of the government. It's in the education system. It's everywhere. But that doesn't mean that you should be emboldened enough to put something like that in writing and tell your employees not to support people that could be on death's door, including families, elderly, veterans, children, and so forth. You betrayed your oath. You got to pay. And this is being investigated. So hopefully every single person, if there are other individuals responsible for this decision, all of them are taken down. And yes, I think that this is something worthy of prison time. No, I'm not about to be out here capping for my sister because she's a black woman. You let a lot of people down. Some people could be dead because of this decision to not go to some of those homes. You need to go to prison for this. And I hope that is the inevitable outcome. I can't imagine if some kind of way Donald Trump was responsible for this, they'd be trying to throw up another lawsuit on him and trying to take him to prison again. They'd be trying to impeach him. They'd be trying to do all kind of stuff. So no, you're not going to live in some sort of insane standard and get exempt some type of way. They need to try to bring some charges on this lady. I don't care. Being fired is not enough. She out here doing freaking talk shows and interviews. Clearly, she has not learned a lesson from this. Instead, she's gaslighting and making excuses, and I don't like that. But let me know what you guys think. Drop a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. I appreciate y'all watching the Black Anomaly Rising channel. I'm out.
You are wrong. All of you are wrong. You gotta go to jail too.